And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on BlazeTV radio and podcast with Aaron McIntyre and Todd Erzin. I am Steve Deace, brought to you by our good friends over at First Cup Coffee Company. They have a flavor for every freedom-loving American. Your Patriot-owned coffee company, but that's not why we promote them. It's because they make good coffee. And as an added bonus, as a value added, they also are of the same value system and mindset as well. So if you want to try it out today, you get 10% off when you go to firstcup.com and use the promo code DACE, firstcup.com, promo code DACE. And if you subscribe, you'll get an additional 10% off for the life of your subscription at firstcup.com using the promo code DACE. All right, a little bit different lineup here today. We have been struggling for months to get our old friend Peter McCullough back on the program. It's just when we are on live is exactly in the heart of his patient treatment schedule, and it's just been difficult to make it work. We hope, Todd, it's going to work today, we think.
He said confirmed as of yesterday, and he absolutely wants to be on. So
okay. I know that.
Yeah.
So we have postponed Daniel Horowitz. You'll have to wait a day for your dose of weekly woe and lamentation because Dr. Peter McCullough will be joining us in his segment coming up during the final segment of the show next hour. At the bottom of this hour, we will, of course, begin with many of your favorite, known as buy, sell, or hold. But before we do all of that, let us begin, as we always do, with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Master Debaters. Joe Biden says he's game to debate Donald Trump this fall. Actually, could be a debate as soon as June. He made the announcement on social media this morning.
Now, my story begins in 19-2. We had to say dickety because the Kaiser had stolen our word 20.
Whoops, wrong clip.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Of course, according to the New York Times, Biden's agreement to debate is loaded with guardrails, including the provision that it be moderated by some regime-friendly media. No RFK Jr., no audience, and stringent COVID testing and masking. Anyway, tariffs are good again, apparently. The Biden administration slapped new tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles, advanced batteries, solar cells, steel, aluminum, and medical equipment, and claimed the country was cheating on trade. According to Redfin, the median U.S. monthly housing payment hit an all-time high of $2,894 during the 4 weeks ending on May 5th. That's up 14% from a year earlier, and home prices rose 4.5% to their own record high. According to a new study from the Center for Immigration Studies that uses Census Bureau numbers, only 46% of immigrants, that's legal and illegal, who arrived over the past 2 years are employed. Jerome Powell, your thoughts?
I would also point to a fairly large influx of immigration into the country over the past couple of years, and those people are joining the labor force. We're experiencing still a labor shortage in many industries, and so there are jobs. And they're going to work and they're consuming, so that's also boosting growth.
Across the pond, checking in on King Charles, who unveiled his first portrait since ascending to the throne. What in the World Economic Forum is that? Looks like Screw Tape and Nefarious took a bad LSD trip and tried to paint a portrait of the King of England. For those of you listening, maybe today you're lucky. In other news, more serious, Brian Dressen of Salt Lake City, Utah, is becoming what is believed to be the first individual to sue a vaccine manufacturer for breach of contract. Dressen says she was left with a debilitating injury in late 2020 after participating in AstraZeneca's COVID jab trial. Dressen cannot bring product liability action against the company on account of the Federal Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act. She can, however, possibly ding the British-Swedish pharmaceutical giant for breach of contract, which is exactly what she's aiming to do. Dressen's lawsuit, reportedly the first to be launched stateside against AstraZeneca, claims the company offered various written promises to participants in its vaccine trial, including financial reimbursement for each completed visit to the test clinic for various procedures, financial reimbursement for each completed phone call linked to the study, and compensation for study-related injuries. Dressen says the effects from the poison poke started immediately after receiving the trial injection and included tingling in the arms, which was not localized and soon spread. That turned into constant vomiting, causing her to lose weight, and soon everything began to hurt, to the point the voice of her little girl was painful to hear, and the touch of her son also hurt as well. National Institutes of Health diagnosed her with something called post-vaccine neuropathy, and this lawsuit alleges that AstraZeneca has done next to nothing to help her in the years since she participated in the trial. That's a story to keep an eye on, and you can read the entire story at The Blaze. It's written by Joseph McKinnon. And finally, you may well know that the American brand of Christianity, pervasive in our land of moralistic therapeutic deism, is not right. But did anyone ever say it was wrong? Please join me for a few moments with Joel Osteen saying a few words of faith.
One way we release our faith every week is by speaking words of faith. So I encourage you, come on, say it with us. Say it out loud. Ready? I am blessed, prosperous, redeemed.
I am blessed, prosperous, redeemed.
Forgiven, healthy, whole.
Forgiven, healthy, whole. Talented, creative, confident. I can speak German.
Confident, secure, disciplined, focused.
Disciplined. I'm a skilled metal worker.
Prepared, qualified, motivated.
Sometimes I communicate with potatoes.
Valuable, free, determined.
My neighbors want my car. The Chinese adore me.
Anointed, accepted, and approved.
My tortured mind is beautiful. Not average, not mediocre. My wife kind of likes me.
I am a child of the Most High God.
And that's what happened while we were away.
And most Sundays in most American churches, that's what happens. Even if they don't turn it into a pagan mantra like that, that's essentially the nuts and bolts of most of your evangelical messaging today. Brought to you by our friends over at Miracle Made. Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality, especially if you are warm-blooded like me? We brought Miracle Made on board last year, and I got to tell you, I was blown away. And it's the only sheets when we're at home, anyway. When we're at home, they're the only sheets we sleep on anymore. We're fantastic. They held up against one of the worst and hottest summers we had last July. Held up against one of the worst and coldest Januaries we had earlier this year. Now this time of year, where it's warm during the day and freezing at night, do you turn the air on, keep the windows open, close the windows? It doesn't matter. The NASA-inspired silver-infused fabrics make temperature regulating in this bedding so good that you can sleep the perfect temperature all night long. I adore these sheets. They're also very comfy. Let's not bury the lead here. They're also very comfy. All right, so if you want the comfort and quality that comes from Miracle Made, go to trymiracle.com/Deace. That's trymiracle.com/Deace. And whether you're buying them for yourself or a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo Deace at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. And Miracle is so confident in their product that it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you're not 100% satisfied, you'll get the full refund. Again, upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made right now. Try miracle.com/Deace to treat yourself or someone you care about. Try miracle.com/Deace. Use the promo code Deace at trymiracle.com/Deace. All right, there are 2 items in Aaron's montage I want to highlight. Number one, the immigration numbers in the labor force. I want to make sure you guys understand how important this statistic is. Because really, in the last 25 years or so, since we have been the frog in the boiling water when it comes to immigration and the border, like a lot of second terms of presidents, Reagan's second term was a disappointment on multiple levels, as much as I adore the man. And one of them was the amnesty that he did back in 1986. And that was supposed to be a one-time only thing. We would never do these things again. Yeah, good times. Anyway, if you're millennial or Gen Z, what I'm about to say to you is going to sound cray-cray. which of course will be about as cringe as me trying to speak your language at 50, but I'll trudge on nevertheless. But there was a time, kids, when California was actually a red state. In 7 of the 10 previous presidential elections before Reagan's 86 amnesty, California voted red. In fact, what state did Ronald Reagan come from himself? The Reagan Revolution came from where?
That one.
That one, from California. George H.W. Bush won the state closely in 1988, and since then it hasn't even been thinkable for a Republican to win. Most of the time, a Republican doesn't even get 40% statewide in the presidential election in California. Think about that. Can't even get to 40%. What happened? The amnesty happened. And that's been the goal of doing this all along. That's what these amnesties are for. They are nothing more than Democrat voter drives, and there's just enough whores on the Republican side willing to do the bidding of corporate America who want glorified indentured servants for employees that they're willing to sell out the country and our birthright, and in order to make it so. Why? Why is this the case? But here's what you're often not told, and this is why, man, theology pretty much matters nowadays in everything. In absolutely everything we do. You may have been told, you can't legislate morality. It's actually the only thing that gets legislated. Every piece of legislation is a moral piece of legislation. Every single one. Oh, you sound like you want a theocracy. Every government is a theocracy. It's just a question of who the theo is and what he, she, or they demands of us. The reason why is because you were sold this notion of these struggling Honduran Catholics trying to escape squalor, bolting north in order to vote Republican and pro-life and pro-family and pick your berries, right? Is that pretty much the stereotype we've been sold?
Yeah.
And mow your lawns. Now, there's some of that for sure, right?
Yep.
But by and large, that's not what you're getting. And this would explain why only 40% of immigrants are in the workforce. They didn't come here for work. Have a seat. Let me explain. They're not in the workforce because, wait for it. They didn't come here for work. That's why.
They want to Netflix and chill just like you.
You bet they do. Except they don't have a job that they can do from home like on Zoom like you. No. Your job you're doing from home on Zoom is going to pay for them, brother. That's how this is going to work. Okay? Why is this the case? Again, theology matters. So, I certainly have my own theological convictions, biases, and preferences. I'm not shy about expressing those, right? Sure. But on this show, there are no sacred cows here on this show. So, and Aaron had no idea I was going to go here, so it's only fitting that Aaron began with his montage skewering one of the biggest sacred cows of American evangelicalism, one of the biggest churches in America, Joel Osteen's. Let's flip the script here, shall we? Many of these people come from places in the world that are technically dominated, in Central and South America, are technically dominated by Catholicism, and I mean technically. And probably, like we've noted with this Pope before, in fact, we just had this conversation, I think, last week, that when issues involving sexual ethics, actually, no, can't even say that. The tranny stuff, he's really good. And on the abortion stuff, basically on the tranny stuff and the abortion stuff, Francis is a pope. Yeah. And on everything else, he's a wokester, basically just a guy trying to, engagement farm, woke talking points, but this time it's in Latin. Fair?
I think you've more or less summed up the general gist.
Well, you know why. Where is Francis from?
He is from South America.
Yeah.
Argentina, specifically.
Yep. What reigns in these parts is what's known as liberation theology. What is it, Steve? Well, it's Marxism, basically. It's a fusion of Marxism, of neo-Marxism with Catholicism. That's essentially what it is. And this is why, except for a couple of the really hot-button moral issues that this Pope is really good on, well, unless, of course, it comes to enforcing these things, we can just have the most high-profile Catholic in the world just go out and make the sign of the cross while he's promoting the killing of kids, of course. But at least rhetorically, he comes across as, well, a Pope on these things. And then the level of rhetoric that he has on virtually everything else is from soft-headed to disappointing to why is he even still allowed to be Pope? Fair? Yeah. Yeah. To the point you are literally praying he's no longer Pope. And if you're Catholic, you have to understand what that actually means. Okay. Indeed. That means he's essentially praying an imprecatory prayer against his own Pope. That's basically what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, most of these immigrants that come from this part of the world, they are worked over by the same theology. The same theology that had Argentina so desperate that it elected a cross between Morton Downey Jr. and Ron Paul to be prime minister, almost as if to say, we've tried everything else, do what you will. Okay, I mean, right? Fair?
Yeah.
That's basically who the guy is, right? Okay. And why? Because they practice this liberation theology that like, when I say it's associated with Marxism, what I mean is it starts from the same premise, that history essentially is not predicated on God's seeking and saving that which is lost because of man's sin. It's not the redemptive arc of history, it's the oppressive arc of history. That history is essentially divided between haves and have-nots, powers and the powerful and the powerless, a very Marxist view of the world. Doesn't mean they agree with all the Marxist policies, but the premise they're starting from is the same one as Marx.
And if I may, I think it'll help give people ears to hear. One of Pope John Paul's most famous photo ops, and again, Polish, knew all too well the oppression of Marxism in his own life, not just theoretically. But he went down to Central America early in his pontificate when he was a healthy, vigorous young man. And one of the priests, I don't remember the actual Central American country, but who was big on liberation theology, there was a line waiting for the Pope to get off the plane on the tarmac. And the Pope is going down the line, greeting them. And he gets to this guy.
Oh, and he lectures him, right?
Oh.
Calls him out.
The guy gets on his knees, and he is just pointing his finger on him and basically taking his belt buckle off.
Yep.
So, you are absolutely hitting. This isn't just a mere theoretical exercise. In this part of the world, this has been an ongoing battle, and Pope John Paul was very vigorous about it.
So you had all these emerging democracies that didn't have the stored up wealth all the Western countries did. The Western countries are just now getting to the point of embracing this stuff and getting insolvent because they had decades and generations of stored up wealth to exhaust before they got to the point where we're all getting insolvent now. These Central and South American neo-democracies or even oligarchies didn't have any of that. So within one era, when they embraced this stuff, they just wrecked themselves and bankrupted themselves. These people are mostly coming here. Did I say exclusively coming here?
No.
Did I say only coming here?
No.
No. But the numbers are what they are. A majority of them are not working. Why? There aren't people that want to hire them where they don't have to give them insurance. They don't have to pay them benefits. They can pay them below market. Instead of paying someone who's a native citizen and is a master carpenter and is expecting $30 an hour just to show up on the job site, they can pay them $15 and no benefits. There's not a lack of people willing to do that. Is that why they don't have jobs? No. They don't have jobs because it's the fulfillment of their theology. They did not come here for work. They came here because we still have a robust welfare state. And the welfare states in their countries are all broken. There's no money left. So they came here for a handout.
And it's also been proven that there's a lot of Catholic charities that are overcome by this same soft-headed mentality, and they are explicitly guilty in being part of this. It's not an underground railroad, but it's there's the same functionality.
Correct. And in the end, the numbers, the data doesn't lie. It's why are we still in a labor shortage? Well, I mean, we killed 60 million of our own descendants here in the last 50 years. Do you think we'd be in as much of a labor shortage if we had 60 million more people that were capable of actually doing work and qualified to do it and educated and trained?
Well,
probably not.
Not only because of the numbers, but if we weren't killing our kids, we might also understand the importance of how we're supposed to live
actually
our lives
educating them and training them.
Yes,
indeed. Yes. All right. So I wanted to make sure we addressed that point. I don't know if anybody else will address it today. I know Bannon's as a Catholic, has gotten in a lot of trouble for addressing this, but everything he's saying on it is correct. He's right. This is for the number doesn't lie there. For everyone that is literally just a struggling man bringing his family here, who's of course the likelihood he's going to make it past the drug mules and the human traffickers at the border are increasingly getting lower. But for every person that literally just wants to come here and live the American dream, it's at least a 1, if not a 1-to-2 ratio of those coming here for a handout. And that's why they're not working. It's not because there's not people that won't hire them. They don't want to work. Let's get to the presidential debate thing. This fascinates me, but I didn't want to spend way too much time on it. That's why I saved it for second here. So we only got like 10 minutes left to talk about it.
Did you limit yourself on purpose?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
There's a gun on the desk too, just so you know.
But what fascinates me is Biden now, we have begged Republican candidates for how many years to back out of the Presidential Commission on Debates. It's totally unfair. It's not nonpartisan. They put up the worst media hacks to, preside over. How many years have we done this? All right? So Biden now says he's not going to go with the Commission on Debates. He's going to go unilaterally and proposes 2 debates. These would be the earliest, I think, like ever. In modern times. I don't know what happened pre-television era. I don't know if William Henry Harrison and whoever he was running against barnstormed the country on a steam engine. I don't know. Okay. Like in the summer of 1828. I don't know. But in modern times, a June 27th presidential debate would be by far the earliest. Why that date? And then another one, I think he said in early September was the other one, correct?
September 10th.
Yeah. These would be the earliest we've ever had. And then the only 2. And I think it begs some questions of why? Why? So let's theorize. Aaron, I want to start with you. Why?
Well, you'll note that there were a number of guardrails, including complaints that the debate commission, what have you, didn't do enough to screen for COVID last time around. That was one of their complaints. No RFK Jr., no audience. I think this is a fig leaf for both guys. Now, apparently, since this news broke this morning, there's already been 1 debate scheduled for the end of June. Even since I was doing the montage right after this news broke, there's been 1 debate scheduled for the end of June. I remain dubious. But if either guy wants to get out of it, they can basically complain, hey, the rules were broken or the rules weren't fair. I think both of them have outs here.
I don't think there's any way Trump wants out of it. So we're really talking about if Trump's going to get a one-on-one shot with Biden, there's no way he wants out of it. I can see Trump not wanting to be on a stage with RFK Jr. Okay. Does he factor into this? If you take it out of the hands of the Presidential Commission, there's no rules for third-party candidates now. They don't have to include him. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. These 2 guys are just on their own, and we're going to do one in June. And if RFK Jr. wants to sue, that could be a factor here. You don't have ballot access in a full amount of states. For what standing would you sue? Okay. And your suit wouldn't be adjudicated by the end of June anyway. So how much of this is that they are an exclusion of him? In order to make this so?
I think it could be a variable, but it speaks to the largest variable of all for both men, in that this is not going well for either one. This is just, both men understand let me rephrase that. Both men's people around them on some level, because I'm not sure anymore what either one of these men truly understand, but both men have people around them who know this thing is kind of a dumpster fire. And at the very least, we need to have this on the table as a go-to, even if it's a Hail Mary go-to, just to rearrange the dynamic. And yes, the likelihood of this actually being either one happening, I don't know what that is. I don't particularly care. But I think for both men, this is an act of desperation.
Agreed. I think this is about 2 things. One of them I just mentioned. I think this is about both sides trying to come up with a way to exclude RFK Jr. Do it early. Do it before he has a critical mass of ballots. You exclude the Presidential Commission so you don't have to have a threshold on third-party candidates, and you can keep him out. That's number 1. But number two is the date to me is key. June 28th is almost exactly 2 months until the Democratic Convention. The Democratic Convention is August 19th when it starts in Chicago. That would be plenty of time. Biden goes out there and the White House apothecary is like Scotty in the neutral zone. I gave it all she's got, Captain. The dilithium crystals there's no more Adderall left in the cabinet, Captain. There's nothing left to do. There's nothing more we can do. I mean, that's it. And if he goes out there and he completely face plants, all right? Yeah. You have it happen early, not in October. You have it happen on June 28th. You've got 2 months of a ramp up nearly for a convention. And then right out of the convention, you get a boost out of that, and then you do the second debate right away. And if you guys looked at the advertising buy for the fall, Democrats are way outspending Republicans right now. And then you get that you have one debate, whether it's Kamala or Newsom, whoever it is, just one time, got it out of the way, and then you're already buying up all these ad blocks for the third and fourth quarter right now that Republicans are getting way outspent on, and then you just bombard them in the airwaves the rest of the way. Or am I giving everybody here too much credit? Thoughts?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I think you're right about all this, but it's not because we're giving anybody credit. It's all hot garbage, and they need a plan. Now, they're also used to like this totally working out for them and Joe Biden coming through clean on the other side, so they'll take it either way. But yes, it's not credit. It's just like, let's just have these options available.
Go get him, Joe. See what you can do.
Because it's not going well for him. It's also not going well for. That's also last time. This is not new. He was necromanced before. He can be necromanced again, but there's also apparatus around them for them to have a margin of cheating. Mm-hmm. This is a margin of cheating.
Aaron, what do you think of my timeline here?
So I think it's more likely that this all has something to do with RFK Jr. than it is the timing of this lines up with 2 months to go to ditch old Joe before the national convention. And here's why I think that. It's actually probably more beneficial to Joe Biden's handlers that he is less and less all there, provided that he doesn't vomit on it. As long as they can basically necromance him, have him say a few words for a couple of hours on a random June night in the middle of the summer, don't vomit all over himself. Yes, he's going to have the odd flub here and there. They still want to necromance him for the next 4 years. That's their ideal situation.
Yeah, you just may be beyond that.
That's the only question there. So What is the line in which the Democrat voter who, no matter what, in a place like Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, maybe even Arizona, watches a debate, sees, I can't vote for that, and decides, I'm looking elsewhere or I'm sitting out? What is the line for that?
Probably the guy.
I don't know.
The guy is not sane. The guy screamed out, this is the big
Trump's
one, Alice, and it's October 17th.
Yeah, but
and the election's
Trump's
in 2
literally
weeks.
Hitler. They will vote for the corpse of Joe Biden before they vote for Donald
remember,
Trump.
Joe Biden only won by a combined less than 40,000 votes. And that's with everything and all the shenanigans and everything that went on.
Where?
It does not. You mean total?
Yeah.
In the battleground states, I mean. It doesn't take too many people who are like, if it's the last debate and it's the end of October and the election's in 2 weeks to say, oh my. Especially with early voting happening and everything right then and there. Do you see what I'm saying? That's why I think they want to do this now. They want to see if he's pliable enough to the American people and do it now. Because if he's not, they've got time to make arrangements if they have to. I agree with you. They'd rather have him be there, but he may not be able to do it.
I just want to meet the voter who voted for Joe Biden last time around and just says, oh, no, we can't do it. So, he was this bad. I mean, he was not this bad, but almost as bad last time around. Mm-hmm. I just want to meet that voter.
Yeah. See, I think that's what's happening here. And Biden's not proposing anything. This is what the Democrats want. Biden is a figurehead. He's not mentally fit enough to propose anything. Don't put on his own pants. Well, I told you earlier this week, right out of the Word of God, that the primary moral issue in God's economy is life. It is the ground zero from the dawn of creation in the war between heaven and hell on this planet. And that's something that preborn understands as well, that this has become the greatest sin in our nation's history. Unfortunately, overturning Roe v. Wade was a great step many of us never thought we'd see, but it was just one single step, and the battle continues. And if anything, we've lost momentum since overturning Roe versus Wade. So that's where we need to turn to people who understand what time it is and have proven to be effective for these times. Preborn is just such an outlet. They have rescued hundreds of thousands of babies' lives through ultrasounds. It's more than an ultrasound. Basically, we're practicing truth and grace here. First, women are confronted with the truth that is another being that they are carrying with its own distinct heartbeat. It's not an unviable tissue mass, and in any other realm, it would be considered immoral, if not criminal, to dispatch a human being with a detectable heartbeat. So you need to understand a heartbeat that signifies life. And the majority of the time, that woman's conscience is pricked and she will choose life. But now this is where the grace comes in. And the grace comes in that now she needs help. She needs support. And they're there with that as well, both pre and postnatal. All of these things, by the way, free of charge, provided they have tax-deductible donation from people like us. If you want to make one today, go to preborn.com/Steve. Again, that's preborn.com/Steve, or you can dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby on your mobile device, or just do what we do when we donate. Go to preborn.com/Steve. Before we get to buy, sell, or hold, I want to make sure I just reset what we were just talking about. I don't believe that these people do almost anything random. Right? They are, in many respects, the other side's ecosystem is different than ours. And that's not necessarily means it's superior. Sometimes it is. But the reason why they seem superior is not because their ecosystem is different. They just have better, they're just more convicted on what they believe than we are. And it's often the people on our side who have the deepest convictions get shunned and taken down for not being pragmatic about, while on the other side, they're the ones that get elevated. So it's not different forms of behaviors and things of that nature that makes them better at this than us. It's that they actually have more convictions than we do. Like, we are very reactionary, but that's not a bad thing. We act like that's universally a bad thing. I mean, you might be having a great day. You're sitting at home, hanging out, playing in the backyard with your kids, and someone breaks in intending to do them harm. Were you planning that?
No.
Was that on your, was that, hey kids, at 2:00 today, we'll have to quit the wiffle ball because the home invasion starts. Wasn't on the calendar, was it?
Not.
Was not. So should you, because you didn't plan it out ahead of time, just do nothing?
Let them go roughshod? No.
Yeah. No, what should you do?
Take care of it.
Yeah, you should react, right? Being a reactionary in and of itself is not bad. I mean, when Jesus reacts to pleas to people, can you provide a healing? Can you give us a word? That's reactionary. He's reacting to their prayers, to their requests. Now, you can't be singularly reactionary. Like, you could still, have a plan where you're like, I should, be trained with a weapon. I should have a security system in case the day would come that someone would want to harm my kids. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay. But so being singularly reactionary is not a great tactic, but being reactionary by nature isn't immoral or terrible. A lot of times it's in reaction to things that we see that need to be corrected, confronted, righted, right? Mm-hmm. On the other side, they're revolutionary. And that and so it's not always just hey, the movie The Strangers. The only movie I've seen since I was a little kid that legit scared me. Which is why I want no part. They're coming back out with sequels to those. Nope, I'm out. You ever heard me tap out of anything like that the whole time you've known me?
I don't think so.
This might be the first. I am as out get. I'm out. Okay. The last line of The Strangers, where they're terrorizing this couple, and they finally, as they're bound and gagged, and they ask them, why are you doing this to us? The last line is, because you were home. Okay. That's not what the Democrats are. They are plotters by nature as revolutionaries. Most revolutions are not reactions. Most of them are plotted. Most of them are prepared for. They're not random acts. And every now and then when you have a revolution that is a random act, like the French Revolution, let's storm the Bastille, that didn't turn out great. Frankly, most revolutions don't turn out great. Ours is one of the few in human history that did. Where clearly what came after was clearly superior to what was before. I'm not even sure how many other revolutions you could actually say that about, frankly, throughout human history. So I don't believe they just woke Joe up this morning, got him his oatmeal, pumped him full the necessary dosage of Adderall and that SNL skit from classic Dan Aykroyd era where he's counseling, he's Billy Carter counseling a guy on the phone of how to come down.
So
okay,
good.
One of the all-time greats.
I think you've taken some Orange Sunshine.
Yes.
Do you have any Allman Brothers records?
Yes, yeah. I don't think that happened. And I don't think it was like Catherine Jean-Pierre was like, oh no, who gave Joe the webcam? I don't think that happened, guys. All right? I don't think that happened. So why did they send him out there and give him this script to read off of? And then, as an aside, how many cuts do you think that clip took? That's like, how many licks does it take to get the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? Or like those jars of jelly beans, guess how many are inside? How many clips do you think it took to get Joe to dish that one out? Okay. And now I say, go ahead, make... no, Joe, you don't say now I say. You just say, go ahead, make my day. Okay. I mean, he Ron Burgundied that thing at least 10 times. Okay. Nevertheless, it's not random. They just sent him out there. I don't believe that. I don't think the dates are random. I don't think it was like, well, we're taking a lid at 10 a.m. on June 27th. Joe get a good 16 hours in, so I think he could do this on June 20. No, I don't think that's it. I don't think you risk putting President Weekend at Bernie's. I take a lid at 11 a.m. after I've not seen in public all day long. I don't think you risk that randomly. I think this is very purposeful. And so if you start from that premise, you have to ask yourself, why then? Why these dates? And I think the most likely success, in order, number one, to do this early and get it out of the way so RFK Jr. does not have to be included. I think that's the number one reason. Number two, though, and I do think this is a consideration. If he goes out there and, literally just goes, beam me up, Scotty, they do have 2 months before the convention to give him a nice send-off. Thank you for your time, but we're moving on. I absolutely don't believe there's no plan associated with this. No, I don't. I don't believe that at all. Do you guys believe that?
No, I said I don't. But it's actually a very sane and logical plan.
I agree.
I
didn't say it wasn't a good plan. I didn't say it wasn't a good plan. In fact, as I sat here and commiserated on it, this is a pretty good plan.
Yes,
I hate to say that, but give the devil his due.
Me,
it's a pretty good plan.
It's a win-win for them. I mean, again, now they still have ABC and CNN. The debate, as yes, they know something about what he's like on a daily basis and how they need to know how he'll do in this debate. But again, they've also know that he won this debate before. That's what's amazing about this. They can't lose. They know Donald Trump can't help himself. I don't even look at this as, I'm beyond looking at this as nefarious.
Meaning that, in a way, they can't lose. If he goes out there and does, his expectations are going to be guttural, right?
Yes.
So if he goes out there and shows he's a functional human being, they won.
That happened 4 years ago.
Okay. If he does go out there, though, and you're like, oh no, Joe, like, dude just trips and falls on the podium, okay? That gives them the impetus to then do what maybe they would really, in their heart of hearts, like to do, but now they can. So there really is no loss for them, really. Right. Because it won't be Joe was okay. It won't be that. It'll be, hey, he's still sane. Or no, he's not sane.
Yeah.
That's a pretty defined line, right? And it's a really low bar. Like, he won't have to defend his record. He won't have to any of the normal things. It'll be so low that literally, if he does not slobber, okay, and just get random Tourette's like dementia patients do, okay, and forget Trump's name and start calling him, Georgie, all right, then all right, Joe's okay.
Yeah, and they also know the public at large is so pathetic that instead, when this happens and they have to pull him back, and the public should, by definition, resent it, the hell out of it, for being manipulated like this whole time, they'll just be like, hey, something new. The media will step in and go full on Joseph Goebbels and carry.
This is normal. This happens a lot in democracy. This has always happened. In fact, this has happened every single presidential cycle. We always replace guys.
They're going to COVID the hell out of this thing.
Great point, Aaron.
You need this inoculation. Whoever that candidate is, look, this is the jab. This will save you. We know what's going to happen. I can't even blame them for it. I blame us for this.
Do I think that there's an intention about some thought about some sort of just ethereal plan out there? Sure. Here's the thing, though, and I keep doing the Missouri thing. I just got to see it with my own eyes.
I hear you.
I got to see it. We've been saying that every single year that Joe Biden has been in office. Oh, he's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. The dude, or his handlers, or his necromancers, or whatever they put in his morning pudding, keeps coming back. It keeps coming back. So I just need to see it happen with my own eyes. So do I think that there's maybe something in the back of somebody's mind? Sure. If that's a plan, if you want to call that a plan, sure. But again, I just got to see it.
And on the other, I think the odds are higher that Biden beats Trump this time than it was when Biden beat Trump last time.
Well, I mean, if I would agree, because I thought the odds were nearly impossible last time. So now if it is just don't be dead, if those are his standards, it's hard to lose. And that's why if he does lose still, you gotta go Jonah Hill gif at that point. Let's reverse this then. What would be alternative hypotheses for this proposal today? What would be the alternative? If it's not the two things I'm mentioning, what would be the alternative reasons? Because we all agree they're not doing it. Democrats, dude, I don't discuss Republican plans. This is your first day on the job. They don't ever have plans.
That's why I wonder why you're even asking this. There are not. This is not complicated.
Yes. So the Democrats are the ones that do the plans. All right, like the Joker plans. Okay.
They've had nefarious. This isn't. You're good at connecting dots that other people can't see. This isn't complicated.
Okay.
This is the only option, and it's just
the things I mentioned.
Math.
It's just those things.
It's just basic.
Because see, that's what I think. I think these are the only two reasons that they would even consider this. Okay. And I couldn't come up with alternative reasons. That's why I'm asking. I couldn't come up with any.
There aren't any.
Could you come up with alternative reasons to why they rolled him out to propose this today, Aaron?
They're just, I don't know. They're demonically influenced, and that's what the seance told them to do this morning.
I think that's literally your only other option, is a voice from beyond spoke. All right. While they were, instead of their group prayer, they were in their group seance. Okay. And in the middle of the group mantra, Dormammu spoke from beyond and said, do this, and they just acted, which of course didn't happen. Not that they were channeling Dormammu part. I guarantee that was happening. But that's the reason that they did this. Okay, I can't think of any other reasons other than these two. You're right, Todd. It's this or it's nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we get to the beginning of buy, sell, or hold, A word about our friends over at America's Christian Credit Union. There used to be a time when financial institutions had respect for their customers' values when they shared in helping to build and maintain our communities. That time, unfortunately, seems to have passed, as it has in so many industries these days. But there is another option. America's Christian Credit Union is the #1 banking institution on Public Square and has provided a full suite of financial services to God-fearing Americans just like you for a lifetime, 65 years. This is not some brand new outfit. So families, ministries, businesses across the country have been trusting them for years. And now you can ditch the big banks and choose ACCU as your trusted financial partner instead. When you switch to America's Christian Credit Union, you'll get great rates, cutting-edge mobile banking, the convenience of more than 35,000 branches and ATMs nationwide. So why keep doing business with financial institutions whose interests don't align with yours when you don't have to anymore? Make the switch to America's Christian Credit Union today. Start doing business with them instead. You can find them online at America's Christian, America's plural, americaschristiancu.com/switch. America's Christian CU for credit union, americaschristiancu.com/switch. And the America's Christian Credit Union is federally insured by the National Credit Union Administration. All right, we don't have time to start buy, sell, or hold, so a quick question here to wrap this up in the final minute. Is there any reason at all, given what I just said is the likelihood of why they're doing this, that Trump should turn it down? If you're Trump, would you rather run against Joe Biden in any condition or somebody else?
That's the other
I'm
thing.
asking that. I don't know.
Trump can't turn it down. That's the other thing. It's impossible for Donald Trump to be the guy he says he is and to turn this down.
I agree. It's not in his nature to. I mean, it might be the only one-on-one shot against Joe Biden he gets. Who knows? Yeah.
I don't think it matters. Tell me the voter who Donald Trump is going to gain. The kind of the picture, the sketch of the voter who Donald Trump is going to gain after a great debate performance against Joe Biden versus who Joe Biden, as I was talking about a few minutes ago, who is he going to lose to Trump? It doesn't exist.
But are there but I agree. But I think there are voters Biden could lose if there is a complete and total cranial meltdown. I do think there's a layer of comfort people in neighborhoods where we live that would be like, okay, and Trump's a lame duck anyway, and I'll start calling him every nasty name in the book the day he gets inaugurated. But sure, this guy is risking our comfort.
What odds are higher, that meltdown or Trump melting down? I say it's Trump.
That's what happened 4 years ago.
Yes.
When it blew my mind and made me depressed. Yes. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV radio and podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I am Steve Deace, and you are you, and can let us know what you think about what we think by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can also follow me at Steve Deace Show over on X or Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, as well as Getter. And then if you are into the podcast, thank you. You're a big part of why we do and what we get to do around here. Please, if you have yet to do this, leave us a 5-star review. You can also, if you like this show, of course, you can also hit subscribe, or if you're on iTunes, you can hit follow. And that way, every time we do a new episode, it will show up in your feed every single time. And we thank you for that as well. This part of the show brought to you by our friends over at Raycon. If you may have heard me talk about their everyday earbuds before and thought, wait. So the same audio quality I expect from the big guys, but at half the price. Sounds pretty good. Too good to be true. but it's not. And if you haven't pulled the trigger on a pair of Raycons, or even if you have, but you're in the market for another pair because they're just that good, now is the time to check them out because they just launched their upgraded model of their best-selling everyday earbuds. Now you also get active noise cancellation, ergonomic design, multi-point connectivity that lets you pair with 2 devices at once. It's available in a variety of vibrant new colors as well. And if you haven't seen earbuds in that color before, mention that before as well. Please touch on the fact that how many of the great features that these things had. You guys see what I just did there?
Sure.
Have you been following what I just did? You guys didn't pick up on it? I just did the whole Joe Biden thing. You guys didn't see that?
No.
Yeah. I read the part. Maybe I'm too good at this. I thought for sure that'd get a laugh, but no, you guys didn't catch it. I just did the Joe Biden, Ron Burgundy thing. You know what? I can tell right now you guys aren't wearing Raycon's earbuds because you couldn't pick up that nuance. If you were wearing your Raycon earbuds, you would have picked that up. All right.
My soul is dead inside after what we talked about for the last hour. I have a alibi and I'm sticking to it.
Now, seriously, these things are phenomenal. Weatherproof, sweat resistant. If you've been wanting to check out Raycons, there truly is no better time than right now. Their upgraded model, it'll blow you away. And you're going to ask yourself, why didn't I do this sooner? So Raycon also offers a 30-day happiness guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Go to buyraycon.com/Steve today and get 20% off your Raycon order, RAYCON. 20% off your Raycon order plus free shipping. You can't beat it at buyraycon.com/Steve. 20% off plus free shipping at buyraycon.com/Steve. Let us now venture forth, good sirs, into buy, sell, or hold. Aaron has submissions submitted from many of you in the audience. We have not seen any of these yet. Todd, we will react to them with a buy, meaning it's got promise, with a sell, meaning it does not, in our humble opinions that really aren't that humble. And then, of course, you have a hold, but you're not really supposed to use it. And if you do, you know what? Just don't use it. I'm going to let you off easy this week. Fair enough?
Fair.
Just don't use
Warranted.
it. Yeah,
after that last hour.
All right, Aaron, let's go.
All right, we're going to begin with this. Every week, there's another guy, different name, another guy, who shows up in my mentions on like Thursday night or Friday morning, complaining about how buy, sell, or hold has gone to hell. The subtext is, never get his submissions actually picked, okay?
Gotcha.
They never say that, but that's the subtext, okay? So this week, I especially reached out an olive branch. I'm going to be extra sensitive in a good way to people who have never had their submissions chosen on buy, sell, or hold. I just said, mark it on your submission, say something in your submission, makes it obvious that you've never actually had your submission selected before, and I'm going to give you priority.
And trust you're being honest about that.
And trust you're being honest about that, and give you priority this week. How many do you think took me up on that?
Nobody did.
Very few.
Oh.
I think like maybe 2, and I'm stretching the definition because we're going to begin with XX, Jose XX, who says, whatever you've been saying that noise for years, you pick the same ones every time. Create your own content. Well, XX, Jose XX, you just helped me create content. In fact, you are the content right now. We'll move on to this. This is basically one of 2 people who actually explicitly took me up on this offer. This is Adebayo Phillip, who says Aaron's cessationist stance makes his 100% biblical worldview score a tad questionable.
I'll buy.
Did I say that I am a cessationist? What I said very carefully, and I said this very intentionally, and I even clarified, I even interrupted you to clarify. I said I would be considered a cessationist, probably. Okay, I would probably be considered a cessationist. Do I consider myself a cessationist? No. Do I believe that miracles still occur? Supernatural miracles? Yes. Having said all of that, because of my rejection of charismatic, the way that it is now, we've had these conversations, I would probably be considered a cessationist.
And to be fair to cessationists, most of them do not believe that the miraculous doesn't occur anymore. It's are certain people anointed with the authority similar to as the apostles were, to be the vehicle or instrument specifically for said things. Okay, so we should be fair about that. But by golly, man, we have argued about this now. This thing has come up how many times? I mean, what in the world is going to come up here, like starting this week when we get to, are the righteous justified by faith alone or something else? What's going to happen when we get to Israel, and what's going to happen when we get to predestination and all the other stuff that's still to come in the book of Romans? And
Let's
now
find
I'm reconsidering my decision to do the book of Romans. All right, but in general, as long as what you do not submit to me, me buying would be in effect a crime, I will buy anything that calls Aaron's 100% biblical worldview into account.
Yeah, I think
just
that's
as a general
rule. That's the bottom line here.
Yes, so I'm a buy. Yeah.
Yes.
I was a buy as soon as you said calling Aaron's biblical worldview into account. Buy.
And that's why neither of you have a 100% biblical worldview. Moving on, we go to my bad self, who says this is his first submission, so that's why he's never been picked. Still, this applies to him. I thought this was interesting. The border will never be closed. The Democrats like it open for so many reasons. The Republicans need it open for the same reasons as the abortion issue. Basically, grift.
I think that this is more likely than not.
Yeah.
But we are at an unsustainable influx of people. Now, what they could do to make a severe dent in this would still be what any previous generation of Americans would have considered to be an unsustainable influx of people. But this is the whole frog in the boiling water thing, right? So I do think if there were a different person president right now, the influx would be significantly lower while still being alarming, but not the 5-alarm fire that we have right now. But that's not what you propositioned. You talked about closing the border. And so from that perspective, then I wholeheartedly agree with your submission, and I will buy it.
Bye.
Yeah.
Next, we go to Jeff Burkhart, who says the song lyric that defines Gen X, this is you and Todd's generation, Here We Are Now, entertain us from Smells Like Teen Spirit.
I don't agree with that, actually.
I'll buy it.
I don't. I think it's, you may view it to be more depressing or not than this, but I think it's more about, I think it's the lyrics to Black Hole Sun. I think it's a lullaby for our generation. I think our generation, by and large, is just embraced cynicism as a basic instinct, to the point of flirting with nihilism. That's what I think. So I'll sell.
I just strongly disagree. The people I meet in our age group, they are just very, very comfortable. As long as they are entertained, they don't really need or care to know about the border or any other issue. I'd actually like to see more of the cynicism you're talking about, because there's a point of dialogue there, a point of debate. People want to plant a flag on an actual argument. Most of the people I talk, their eyes glazed. You can't. It doesn't matter what the issue is. You just can't even get that. I'm comfortable. Leave me alone. I'm comfortable. Leave me alone. They have all the access to entertainment they need and want. I think it's definitely Nirvana over Black Hole Sun.
I think these lyrics are much more indicative. I think this is modern American generations in general, what you just outlined there. We've never had 70% voter turnout, and we've never had a huge amount of people engaged, and it's worse now than it's ever been. But that's always been. We had a small percentage of people fighting the American Revolution compared to overall colonists. I think these lyrics are much more our generation. If we're talking uniquely our generation, every American generation in recent times has been too entertained. But in our generation, I think these lyrics speak much more. All right. Stuttering, cold and damp, steal the warm wind, tired friend. Times are gone for honest men. Sometimes far too long for snakes. In my shoes, walking sleep in my youth, I prayed to keep. Heaven send hell away, but no one sings like you anymore. I think that is much more where our generation is.
That's not the lyric going around in most people our generation's head who live in the neighborhoods we live in. That level of cynicism would actually encourage me. They just have a song in their head as, hey, Netflix and chill, entertain me. What's on TV tonight? What am I doing? Where am I eating?
I actually think both of these things can be true at the same time. I think it's Black Hole Sun on the way to Smells Like Teen Spirit.
I just think what's in Smells Like Teen Spirit is every single American generation alive right now.
Yeah, that could be true too.
I mean, when was the last time America had a generation that was under-entertained? I mean, the immediate generation that came out of World War I invented flapper, premarital sex, fornication. Well, I mean, this is not new. That's not
none of
unique.
that is an argument saying that it isn't the fundamental thing that affects our generation the most. If it does equally others, that's fine. But it's our generation.
I mean, if that's how you took the question, I took something that was, and I could be wrong, but I took it to be something that is unique for our generation. I don't think being over-entertained is unique for our generation.
Do you think our generation is more cynical than Aaron's generation?
Oh, absolutely. Aaron's generation thinks it can perfect the world. Absolutely.
I just strongly disagree.
Aaron's generation is going to bring us the utopia.
That's not new to that generation or any generation. I mean, the baby boomers are absolutely guilty of that.
Yeah, and that you see millennials are many of the exact same instincts.
Well,
it's an interesting conversation for sure.
Well, and to me, it's verification of the warm blanket of comfort that people will do anything to argue for something other than that it's that.
But let's keep in mind,
almost always
we call them the greatest generation because inevitably they answered the call. But before they did everything they could to avoid answering it. They wanted no part of the call. They put it off. They didn't want to. They ignored it. Not our fight. Charles Lindbergh toured the country. By the way, this is where the slogan "America First" came from. Came from Charles Lindbergh touring the country, telling people, "Not our fight. The Nazis are good. The Jews are bad." We did everything. That generation did everything they could until the Japs landed at Pearl Harbor, and they could no longer ignore it. But they did everything they could. I mean, we had nothing to say when the Nazis have the last remaining Allied troops on the beaches of Dunkirk. We had nothing. So they were the greatest generation because they did inevitably answer the bell. But they answered it when they had no other alternative. The same thing is true at the founding of the country. It didn't just, hey, that's enough from the King of England. They spent years, these guys did, negotiating. They spent years begging and pleading. They spent years trying to avoid having an actual fight. I mean, this is human nature in general. I would agree, though, that this particular era that we live in has more of those comforts than any other, but I don't think there's been an under-entertained era of Americans in quite a long time. Now, but that's my position. Todd, you're welcome to disagree. I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
I think I had the last word.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll continue.
Next, we go to Patrick, who says if left unchecked between A, continued dirty voter rolls, and B, improved dispersion statewide of mail-in and other ballots, and C, more natural timing of recording these ballots, Democrat turnout operation, in scare quotes, will become near impossible to spot by 2028.
That's one of the smartest submissions we've had this year. I mean, even the use of, look at the way the terminology has changed. Again, it goes back to the frog in the boiling water. This went from stealing elections to ballot harvesting to now it's just a sunk cost. It's the turnout operation that we have to match. Yeah. And this is same thing. This happened on Obamacare. This happened on welfare. This happened with the Reagan amnesty. This happens on virtually everything. Inevitably, we just end up adopting their talking points and arguing their premise.
Well, it's funny. I think this is providential. But if our generation, broadly speaking, this dovetails nicely to me, was truly at its heart more cynical than comfortable, we would resent the hell out of this and we would fight it on some level of principle. We don't do that, and it is like this because
I can give you the Gen X
comfortable.
cynical answer. Fight it for whom? so that the guy that gave us Operation Warp Speed and still isn't apologetic about how many people died, so that a bunch of Republicans, who suck and screw us every time could just win in another election where they could suck and screw us every time. I'm not necessarily channeling my own direct thoughts on these things, but I could give a very cynical Gen X reply to why. What would be the point? And if anything, then bring it on all the more. Then eventually, it might suck enough that people might do something about it. I'm just saying that there's lots of different ways to spin cynicism. That's all I'm saying.
Theoretically, practically speaking, real incarnate people out there.
We don't have a lot of those in any generation.
They are, and they're just too damn comfortable to do anything about this. This is why this is fate for us. That's why.
I think it's fate for us because we don't have a lot of incarnate people in virtually any generation. I think that's why. And I think the church collectively in America has not been interested in creating incarnate people. It's been interested in creating compliant statist people with Bible verses.
That's comfort again. Yes. Yep. It's, God, I wish it was cynicism. We'd have a shot.
Yeah, it's bad, no matter how you slice it. Next, Gary Rasmussen Jr. says Deadpool and Wolverine will be the highest-grossing Marvel film, even eclipsing the Endgame saga, mostly due to Steve's philosophy of how we're craving broken heroes like Batman.
I love the idea of you using my philosophy against me, but I'm going to resoundingly sell for three reasons. Number one, the theater system in general right now is very broken, and it's really a flip of a coin of what people are willing to go see in the theaters and what they are not at this point. Number two, the Marvel brand is very, very broken as well. And then number three, it's rated R. So you're already limiting your audience with that. I mean, there's a reason why we've only had one movie rated R reach $1 billion, and it was Joker back in 2019. When you're rated R, you limit your audience. So for those three reasons, I'm going to resoundingly sell. But I do appreciate your attempt to use my own philosophy against me. I like that.
I'm selling. The most likely reason for any of these movies in this genre for not doing well is just because they suck.
Well, there's that too. Okay, nice.
Anna Allen says, I'm a big fan of Star Trek, the original series, and been rewatching it for the first time in decades. Holds up surprisingly well, but I've realized buy, sell, or hold, it's really just a stage play with dramatic music.
I would buy, but that would define many shows of that era just because of the limits in special effects, technology, budgets, etc. Okay? So I don't think that makes it unique for the shows of that era. Yeah. Star Trek ran from 1966 to 1968, I want to say, a total of 79 episodes. So given the budgets and technology of that era, that's not necessarily unique. But I'll buy that your description's largely correct.
Buy, and there's a reason why there's still a thing called Broadway today, plays. I mean, it's the OG and it still works. So it's not surprising that they just took that model and then put a camera in front of it. It's still compelling.
Our friends at Patriot Mobile have been on the vanguard of the very necessary parallel economy for the last decade as America's only American mobile phone company. And if you want to make the switch today, you can do so for two reasons. Number one, they do a great job. And they have a fantastic customer service team. You can't beat it. Number one, they're U.S.-based, which means you'll actually understand the words that are coming out of their mouths. But number two, they will do whatever they can to make your switch as flexible for you. You can keep your number, switch your number, upgrade your current phone. Just keep your current phone if you like it as it is. They'll make that possible for you. And then number two, this also means you no longer have to give money directly to people who hate you. So if you want to make the switch today, go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. If you use the offer code Steve, you'll get a free activation when you make that switch today. At patriotmobile.com/Steve, use the offer code Steve. Again, go to patriotmobile.com/Steve and use the offer code Steve for a free activation today.
Next, we go to Jordan Judge. Eventually, people will get fed up with all the aid going to Ukraine as Russia continues to advance and Ukraine launders the money given to it.
If they were cynical, they would, but they're comfortable, so they won't.
When did this start? 2021?
Yeah, well, here's the thing that flummoxes me. is that the public polling is, who knows if it's true or not, but it's much more in favor of funding Ukraine than would exist within our own ecosystem. Okay? So, what was your answer? Did you buy or sell?
He sold.
Yes, I guess.
Okay, then I'll buy, because I could see this going either way. So I think both sides have an equal claim on potential outcome here. So I'll go the opposite side of Todd, just so that both sides are represented. You know, that's what we do here on the Day Show. We're about inclusion. Aaron.
Leskob Randon, that's one of the more interesting spellings of that phrase that I've seen, says outside of DeSantis, Trump's best option for VP is John Fetterman.
Okay. Yeah. Bye. It's not unreasonable. Bye. I like where your head's at.
How much money would you pay? I would pay $90, $100 pay-per-view.
See, I'll give you the Gen X cynical answer.
To just watch a televised conversation between John Fetterman and Donald Trump talking about Hannibal Lecter.
Nice. I'll give you the Gen X cynical answer. If we're done here, then let's go. On with the show. Vice President Fetterman it is. Okay. Well, it would certainly make Pennsylvania way more competitive than it currently is, I think. Or at least, no, it's competitive. It would make it way more winnable than I think it currently is. And that would therefore make the Electoral College way more winnable than it currently is. Ask yourself the various names that Trump is talking about right now. We all like J.D. Vance, but he comes from a state that Trump's going to win no matter what. So what does Doug Burgum help Trump with?
Did you see the betting markets on Burgum?
Is he number one right now?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I think I saw. Let me see. Is it Burgum or Bergrum?
The fact I don't know,
Burgum.
It tells you all you need to know.
We're not cynical at all.
There's very few people he could put on his ticket that you could say would enhance his Electoral College.
Interactive polls, Polymarket, which is the same
that's
outfit that we examined last week, a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah, but Doug Burgum is now top of the odds, 21%, plus 9.
Who's number 2?
Tim Scott.
Yeah.
Number 3 is J.D. Vance. 4 is Marco Rubio.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'd rather have John Fetterman than Tim Scott or Doug Burgum. He's going to be more honest than those two.
Oh, man.
I mean, Vance is the most, is the, particularly if you're looking at someone who could be the long-term vessel for what Trump represents, Vance is the best candidate he could pick. Of the names out there. Like, I think Sarah Huckabee Sanders might be the best living person he could pick. I think she would help him on multiple levels. But of the names that are being bandied about, Vance, to me, is way ahead of all the other names. But he also doesn't add anything. He doesn't instantly change the math in the Electoral College the way a John Fetterman might. Now, I'm not morally arguing for John Fetterman. To me, this is more of an indictment of the caliber of names that are currently being discussed by Trump than an advocacy for John Fetterman. So for that reason, I will buy.
I will not have you research our 12th best senator as verified scientifically on the Steve Deace Show like that.
As the man now carrying the torch for Gen X cynicism, I'm a buy on Fetterman as VP. Nice.
Next, we go to the Apocalypse, who says the Chiefs will cut Harrison Butker by training camp.
Oh, no way. He's too good of a kicker. And even if they did, he'd have another job in 12 hours. Maybe in half an hour. So I will sell. Yeah, he's too good of a kicker.
Sage Ninja Padawan says the 2024 presidential total popular vote will be significantly less than that of 2020. I'm going to ignore the second part of this because I don't understand it.
I agree that we will have a lower turnout. Well, if these are the two candidates on the ballot November the 5th, I agree we will have a lower turnout. I will buy.
Yes.
Jonathan Corey says the entirety of the Mosaic food law was to prevent the ancient Israelites from putting ham and pineapple on pizza.
Oh, that's so snotty. Even though I like pineapple a lot in almost every vintage, but I think that is so sufficiently snotty. I'm going to buy as credit to you, sir. So I will buy, even though it's completely unbiblical and irreverent.
Buy.
Yeah.
Rowdy Introvert says the average military-aged U.S. male citizen has less combat training than the average military-aged male illegal crossing the border.
I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, I didn't even want to consider that. Oh, gosh.
Because we're comfortable.
Oh, my gosh. That's some great Gen X cynicism right there, that question. That is some phenomenal Gen X cynicism. So on those grounds, I'm going to buy. As the official now torch keeper and holder and keeper of the flame of Gen X cynicism, I buy.
Some Call Me Tim says a pitcher's duel in baseball is far superior to a 0-0 soccer game.
Well, this is self-evident because virtually anything is superior to a 0-0 soccer game. So I will buy.
I will sell. Not because the other one is true either, but it just depends on the game.
Random Tourette's says because of the weak sauce submissions on buy, sell, or hold, it should be replaced until the audience participation improves.
We're getting like hundreds of these a week.
Well, we were still getting like over 150 a week. Though.
I got like 400 a week.
Well,
the 2 weeks that you were gone.
A Twitter account 4 times the size of mine.
All right, so should I start retweeting your thing then?
Sure.
The reason I don't is I just don't want to be tempted to look at the submissions ahead of time. But okay, all right. So I will start highlighting what when you send out the clarion call every week, I'll retweet it so that more people see it, and I'll just do my darndest to avoid peaking, before Christmas at what presents lie under the tree.
Is there any objective, not my feelings are hurt reason, but an objective sense from you, Aaron, about where this segment has lost its fastball or anything like that?
I don't think that it has.
Not really.
I don't notice it myself either.
I wasn't aware that the submissions had gone downhill. If anything, if you feel that way, I think it's likely reflective of what is happening. I mean, most days I come in, supposedly have the most important election of our lifetimes. Anything breaking? No. Now, today there was
talking
something.
about that. There was, this is the first day in 3 weeks since I've been back that we said, yes, there is, but you were already aware of it.
Yeah, I did not know about
EcoHealth.
The EcoHealth thing.
Oh, yeah.
Expunging them from any further federal funding. I didn't know about that. Okay. But yeah, I mean, there's not like daily events happening with the presidential candidates on the campaign trail. They're not exchanging back and forth, talking points on key issues of the day like we're accustomed to. There's, I think a lot of that's just one thing. I think for a lot there just doesn't seem like there's much going on.
To answer your question, Todd, I haven't really gotten the sense that this segment has necessarily gone downhill or anything. It's just that there's one different person every single week that's just like, boy, this segment sucks. It used to be my favorite segment. And I really think the subtext is you've never actually selected one of my submissions, and I think I'm really smart and really cool, and people like me. I think that's the subtext. But just to test that, I wanted to just give the priority to people who have not been selected this week, and very few people took me up on it. Nestor Rivera says it's a dude code violation to complain about your submissions to buy, sell, hold not being selected.
Yes, that's a great one to end it on too. Absolutely, it is.
Correct.
It's very whiny. It is. It is kind of the dude version of do these jeans make my butt look big? So yeah, thank you. That was a necessary point of order there to conclude this, Nestor. And I love the name Nestor, by the way. You guys know I love me some Nestor the long-eared Christmas donkey.
That's true.
I do love me some of that. All right, we'll get through the rest of Aaron's buy, sell, or hold submissions in the overtime for Blaze TV subscribers. But when we return, it'll be the return of one of our favorites, Dr. Peter McCullough. Stay tuned. Well, if you are, in spite of the news that Aaron gave you at the top of the show today, per capita mortgage payments at an all-time high in America. Literally, if you got a mortgage, a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage the day before Joe Biden took office, and then if you got one the day after he did, you're paying 100% more 4 years later. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible what's happened there. So sometimes we can't avoid it, and sometimes we're just like, it's time to move. If that's you, before you go into this I guess we'll call it the Let's Go Brandon real estate market, or these, I guess, unprecedented times.
Bing.
Make sure you have an agent that you can trust to guide you through, and where are you going to find them? The name says it all. Head to realestateagentsitrust.com. They will pair you with a real estate agent in your area or the area that you're trying to move to. Someone who knows the best practices, the lay of the land, has a proven track record of success, and very often they're from right here in the Blaze audience, so you know you probably have some common values you can mutually trust in as well. Make sure you've got the right tour guide for this jungle known as the Biden economy. All right. realestateagentsitrust.com. The name again says it all. That's where you want to go. realestateagentsitrust.com. Speaking of people you can trust, it has been too long, but glad to have back our good friend, Dr. Peter McCullough. My friend, how are you, brother? Good to see you.
Good. How are you, Steve?
Very well. And I want to kind of just start with an open-ended question about what are you seeing right now in your practice? Is it long COVID? Is there even such a thing? Is it long-term side effects from the jab that they're just labeling long COVID? Are we looking at the apocalyptic predictions that Geert Vanden Bossche has been throwing out for the last couple of years? Are you seeing those kinds of trend lines? So where are we at right now, 3 years post-rollout of these genetic serums?
Let's just take unvaccinated patients. I am seeing some cases of COVID. I just finished with a lady where this latest variant, the JN1 variant, does create a prolonged illness that is severe, doesn't require hospitalization, but it's true. The JN1 variant is, I think, more severe than some of the Omicron subvariants. And in that respect, Geert Vanden Bossche was correct that the vaccination is just promoting more and more of these resistant strains. Among the unvaccinated, I am seeing people get a third or fourth or fifth case of COVID and then end up with a blood clot. That is not a rare phenomenon. So that's just COVID. Now enter in the vaccine. 75% of Americans took the vaccines. Now the body is preloaded with a lot of spike protein. They may have had COVID a few times before or after the vaccines because they don't work. Now we've got a situation, Steve, we're measuring the extended range antibodies against the spike protein. To give you an idea, on the LabCorp assay, it should be less than 1. People with a natural infection a few times, it can be up to about 1,000 of these arbitrary units. Vaccinated can be 5,000, 10,000, over 25,000, reflecting a massive amount of total body spike protein. And in the vaccinated who are having COVID, now we're seeing gigantic blood clots, heart damage, myocarditis, stroke, atrial fibrillation, immune syndromes. We now have to do a full autoimmune panel on these patients. They develop a whole variety of arthritic and vasculitic syndromes, skin rashes. And then our great fear, Steve, is on the horizon, cancer with the vaccines.
What I hear you saying basically is that all of us, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert here, but it seems as if all of us really were subjected to a giant human experiment. Whether we took this vaccine or not, given the likely unnatural to malicious origin of this virus, all of us now were subjected to some form of a giant, in real time, scientific experiment that the long-term consequences for were just not going to be known, but realized in real time. But if you added taking the vaccine on top of that, you basically put another bullet in the chamber at the red bandana scene of the deer hunter. That's kind of what I hear you saying, right or wrong?
It's true. Remember, the spike protein was the target of gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It was the plans of Ralph Barrick at UNC Chapel Hill, Peter Daszak lending assistance from the EcoHealth Alliance, transmitting the plans over there to the Chinese, Anthony Fauci funding the entire thing, and Dr. Xingling Li in China actually doing the work. They manipulated the spike protein. Not only does it make coronaviruses more infectious and more lethal, but we can't get rid of it. It seems like it's resistant to kind of human natural ways of getting rid of this protein. So we actually have to use external products, what's called McCullough protocol-based spike protein detoxification. We actually have to detoxify the body.
Wow. Have you seen anything like that before with any form of respiratory virus in your history in medicine?
No, I have not, though, but there's some analogies of some other infections that install something in your body it's hard to get out. One of them is Lyme disease. Lyme disease, Borrelia burgdorferi proteins stay in the body a very long time. I'll give you another one, syphilis. When syphilis gets in the body, it can stay in there for decades. What we've learned with SARS-CoV-2 infection and the spike protein is we actually have to do something active to help clear it out.
Does that potentially point to the unnatural origin of the virus, the fact that it is behaving like other infections out of its own classification and not like other respiratory ailments traditionally do?
Right. So it's behaving differently because it appears to be an antigenic residual exposure, the spike protein, which we get through the infection and the vaccine. Infection gives us the S1 segment alone. The S2 segment, the inner segment of the spike protein, is sacrificed at the ACE2 receptor. But with the vaccine, we get full-length Pfizer, Moderna spike. And in fact, there's a molecular signature. They insert 2 proline residues. So scientists now can tell you if someone has Pfizer Moderna spike protein in the blood. That's been shown by Brogna and colleagues. It's different than Epstein-Barr virus, herpes, or varicella viruses, where they actually, the viruses install themselves in our DNA and then they reactivate. This is different. All the anatomic studies show that it's spike protein that's inside the blood clots, it's in the heart and brain, is causing damage.
Can I ask a complete layman's question that to try to figure out why that may be the case? And again, slap me around if I'm way off here. Okay, you're the expert, brother. But I have had a long-standing theory that the origin of the virus is that they were doing preemptive experiments. It wasn't just even the gain of function. They were attempting to purposefully cause spillover. They were trying to provoke bat coronaviruses to spill over to humans so that they could now come up with a preemptive, lucrative vaccine that they could never do retroactively for the first SARS. And that's the origin of this virus. And it explains why they so quickly had it coded and ready for a vaccine, because the virus is the alpha strain of the vaccine. And that would explain could that explain the spike protein phenomenon here? Because the entire impetus of this mRNA technology is the utilization of spike protein in order to produce the immune response rather than the traditional inert form of the virus and infection itself. Thoughts on that?
You nailed it. Actually, Peter Daszak, EcoHealth Alliance, published before COVID about disease X, and that is working on a virus, making it more infectious in order to come up with a vaccine. That's kind of the marketing business plan of this biopharmaceutical complex we outlined in our book. Daszak said this before COVID in writing in various forms of op-eds. Then when COVID hits, Daszak says, COVID could be disease X. Now coming out of COVID, there are more disease X papers written saying, yes, we have to do gain of function research so we can get to vaccines. Now, I testified on the Hill in Congress January 12th, 2024, just 2 days after Fauci. And, the word talking to people are the same people. I got grilled for 3 hours answering questions, citing the data, as I always do. And the one thing I got out of the panel members is that, Fauci didn't cite any data. He couldn't cite a single paper. And he conceded, yes, the reason to create SARS-CoV-2 was to get to the vaccines.
Oh, wow. That's crime against humanity stuff, brother. That's what that is.
I agree. Both COVID itself was a wave of injury. Sadly, we lost seniors in our country. The denial of treatment and the impediments the governments put up all over the world led to really avoidable loss of life, hospitalizations, misery. And now the vaccines have created long-lasting misery. I'm seeing new cases of cardiac arrest, blood clots, and heart damage arising 3 years after these shots.
That will make you furious, number one. Number two, I get emails like this all the time. I want to share a little bit of this with you. A woman, Gina, wrote me and said, hey, my husband was forced as a nurse to take all the jabs. He turned 50 last year. I insisted he have a colonoscopy. He came back with a cancerous polyp on the verge of being very bad. My 17-year-old son was given the jab by my ex-husband behind my back. Soon after, he began having heart palpitations at wrestling meets and anxiety and depression from that. Could these all, she's asking, because I get these a lot, could these all be as a result of the spike protein? And then number two, if so, how the heck do we get that thing out of their bodies, of our loved ones and ourselves? I get these two questions a lot, Peter. What would you say?
Well, heart palpitations for sure is related to the spike protein, whether it be myopericarditis, cardiac inflammation, what's called POTS or posterior orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. These are all acknowledged spike protein syndromes. The cancer is a bit different, Steve, is that if someone, let's say they had the genetic predisposition for colon cancer, what can happen is the spike protein can impair our tumor suppressor systems, P53 and BRCA. In this case, P53 would be likely operative. And then the messenger RNA itself impairs DNA repair. And then finally, this groundbreaking news from 4 labs, preprint papers by Spiegler and by McKernan, and now a paper out this week by Koenig from Germany, showing Pfizer and Moderna are loaded with DNA process-related impurities. So these DNA fragments, way more than should be there, could almost certainly drive cancer. They're readily taken up by cells. So this multi-pronged mechanism can basically make the shots themselves be directly oncogenic. It's called the multi-hit hypothesis of COVID-19 vaccines, published by Anguis and Bustos from University of Oregon. What do we do about it? We can hope that the body will get rid of messenger RNA through RNases. RNase A and B should do the job slowly. What we need to do is get rid of the spike protein. That's where I've published with Dr. Proctor here in my office in Dallas, where we use a combination of nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin in specified doses in our peer-reviewed papers to assist the body theoretically in clearing spike protein. It's a slow process, probably takes a year or more, but we have to use these natural products in combination. We can escalate doses because the nattokinase and bromelain for sure have been shown to dissolve or degrade the spike protein. That's been demonstrated. And the curcumin in randomized trials blocks spike protein inflammation.
Final question I have for you, and it's only because of time. I mean, I have like 50 other questions for you, but I want to ask a personal question of you. The amount of suffering you are still seeing in your clinic and practice, how do you avoid? I mean, the amount of anger that I have swallowed the last few years, just what's in my inbox, what I've seen from people I know, people I love. How do you avoid that and stay on mission here? And maybe that's your answer, right? Maybe that the fact there are so many people to help allows what I really think about all of this to be kept at bay because there's a clear and present need to serve people. Maybe that's your answer, but how do you avoid just not having fantasies of human tribunals that you get to preside over? Because I have those actually.
Oh boy, one of the hats I wear as the chief scientific officer of the wellness company. An alternative, really health system for the country. And we actually put a formal letter out to Senator Rand Paul saying we would be glad to help him. I do think that he needs doctors to advise him. He's not a full MD. And he needs people like myself and others to advise on the questions to ask. How I do it, Steve, is I stay focused on the mission. There are so many people suffering. I'm just a natural innovator. I'm trying to do everything I can to come up with new approaches. I'm publishing everything I can despite the headwinds in the peer-reviewed literature. We will prevail, but I've learned that this is a long-run game. This isn't ending soon.
No, it's not. Thank you for all the work you have done, everything you've risked to do that, and on behalf of so many people and the people you're helping now, brother. You are one of the. If there's there's a few blessings that have come out of this, and getting to know you and seeing your courage through this has been one of them. So thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
You bet. Folks, if you want to catch our overtime today or all of the great stuff we do here at Blaze TV, this is a great time to subscribe. We have our Blaze Originals series, the work that Steve Baker has done, and his incredible investigative work on January 6th. So much great exclusive commentary over at theblaze.com. You can also get this full show plus our overtime content every day by going to blazetv.com and subscribing. Use the promo code Steve, actually now. Use the promo code Steve to get $20 off your subscription. That's blazetv.com to get the full show plus overtime and all the other great stuff we do here at The Blaze. Use the promo code Steve to get $20 off. That's again, promo code Steve at blazetv.com. Do it today. We would appreciate it, and we think it's worth your while as well. All right, gentlemen, we have 2 minutes left. Your final thoughts on the show and or the conversation we just had with Peter McCullough.
I'm just struck. I don't know how he's been on the show how many times since the first time we had him on? I mean, 6, 7, 8. Really, he's probably been on close to that many times. I'm just struck at this part of the game in 2024. A lot of it isn't that much different than the first couple of times, which is a great tragedy, because we should be telling our school children about Peter McCullough, like when Steve and I were kids and learning about history. We're learning about Jonas Salk and Alexander Graham Bell, and met a moment in time and addressed it and changed things. This guy's changed things in terms of what the truth really is as much as anybody else.
Agreed.
Yet we haven't moved on to the celebratory stage, and I fear we never will.
Honestly, what keeps one of the things, I should say, beyond some of the stories like you heard in the montage, a number of the stories that you continue to be sent in your inbox, Steve, one of the things that keeps me motivated to never look away from what was perpetrated and what continues to be perpetrated, honestly, against humanity, but especially in the years 2020, 2021, and onward, are people like Peter McCullough, who have been very consistent, rational, but from the very get-go, brave and courageous. People like Scott Atlas, who were brave and courageous, using their... They could have been afraid of being branded right-wing. They could have been afraid of being branded with Donald Trump. They could have been afraid of any number of things. And Lord knows they've had threats made against them. We'll talk about Dr. Cole. Try to get his license stripped. Those people deserve better. They deserve better. That's one of the things that motivates me to keep bringing this up and never forgetting.
Amen. Back at it again tomorrow. Until then, Romans 8:28.